and we are recording this meeting. So just one quick note, and I'll probably try to remind everybody again, we're going to be doing roll call votes on this. Let me just get this out of the way. So I'll be working through those. Do we have any public comments?
Linda?
Yes.
This is Terry.
Hi.
I've got BTN on right now. Nebraska's beating Michigan from a game in 2019. Wanted to let you know.
That is lovely to know. You just made my night.
Are there any other public comments?
I think this is Bert Hansen from the Agriculture Commission. I think we're on the agenda for later.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
6 o'clock. Do you have anybody else joining you today, Bert, besides Dennis?
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth.
Then I think we had originally tried to get you on at 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
So,
that's fine.
But we'll go through, and I don't know if you got that information or not.
Yes.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
just in case your other members aren't going to get here at 6 o'clock, then we'll wait for them.
Yeah, okay.
Let's see. No more public comments. Let's talk about the minutes of 4:13. Has everybody read through those? If not, then let's take a few minutes to do that.
I make a motion to accept them as written.
Do I have a second?
I second. Sheila.
Okay. So all those, any further discussion? Hearing none. So we'll do a roll call vote. Linda,
Yes.
Sheila,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Jane?
Arthur,
Abstain.
Carrie,
Oh,
Terry or
yes.
Terry?
Terry or Carrie?
Carrie.
Yes, sorry. I think I voted for Terry before.
That's okay. Karen,
Yes.
and John. I don't know if you need to vote on this or not, actually.
Yeah, I don't think it matters.
And I'll vote yes. So
Believe everyone's here today, right?
as written. Yeah, everybody is here. Okay. Robin, did we have any reserve fund transfers today?
No, we did not. We took care of those. We just
Okay.
have to do the emergency waiver if you can.
So the procurement waivers, we can discuss that now if you'd like. So I did reach out to the select board and I did get some clarification relative to the procurement waivers. And as we had kind of expected, those waivers waive the bid process should the select board need to be able to make an emergency purchase. Joe, do you want to add to that at all?
Not really. I'm just here to observe. If you really need me to speak, I will. But yes, that is if something happened, we really had to make an emergency purchase, which so far so good we haven't needed to, that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I'm just a clerk.
So does anybody else have any questions or have any further questions on the procurement waivers and waiving those during the COVID situation we're in? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask for a motion.
Move
I
to
make a
approve.
motion. Oh, second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. We'll do a roll call vote again. Linda,
Yes.
Sheila,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Arthur,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
and I'm voting yes as well. So that's unanimous that we pass that.
Who made the motion? I couldn't hear.
Arthur made the motion, I believe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right, well, I think we've got all the other business done until we get into the budget and the, to go through that. I think Bert, if it's okay with you, you can start.
Good if I take myself off mute, I guess. So I wasn't sure actually about the meeting today. If you guys had questions for us, or were we supposed to? Because we talked through our budget at our March meeting.
Okay, I thought you had asked for us to see. You asked to come to see us.
Bob, if I could just, can you hear me?
Dennis?
Yeah, we had some questions from Laura Fletcher, and we thought that, the way it was supposed to go was through the Finance Committee, but we're still not really sure about how the process works. We went to the budget hearings, and then the Finance Committee reviews it, and then it goes to the Select Board, or
Okay.
we're really not sure how that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And I'd be happy to go over that. Bearing in mind that the Finance Committee is an advisory board, and the Select Board has the final say with respect to, the budget. We make our recommendations to the town, and the Select Board has a meeting very similar to what we're going to go through later on, and they're going to have their recommendations, and they're going to provide that to Laura, and Laura is going to tabulate those yays and nays and cuts or additions or whatever, and we will get at some future date basically an exception sheet. So where we agree, we don't rehash that. Where we differ, we take those sheets and we go through those in a joint work session between the Select Board and the Finance Committee. And usually there isn't too much blood, fisticuffs or the like, and we wind up coming to a meeting of the minds, and then we bring the budget to the town for their approval.
So it really hasn't got to Laura's desk yet, as far as you know?
No, not at
So,
all.
Laura, the questions you had for us, is that something separate from what we're talking about? Laura, are you there?
No,
She's
No.
still having trouble.
Oh,
you're on
okay.
mute. Can you unmute it, Laura? There you go. Okay.
I didn't really have any questions other than it was echoing on my side. Just how to get it into the budget.
Laura, do you have a speaker on your computer?
Yes, because it's,
Because if you have your phone and a speaker on your computer, that's what's generating the echo.
yeah.
You got to turn the speaker on the computer off.
That's what they're saying.
Is that better now? No?
That's a little better. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
No.
Can I, because I wasn't at that meeting that AgCom presented, what is the purpose of AgCom?
Bert, do you want to explain to Linda what the purpose of AdCom is?
Yeah, it's to advocate for and support farmers in town. Excuse me. A lot of that has to do with APR protections, right to farm laws, and we're actually right now we're starting a census of farms in town to better know who does what and how we can perhaps help them out.
Don't forget about the community garden that we've...
Of course. The community garden is next door. It's part of the Sofinowski Land Preserve. It's next door to where I live, is what I mean by next door. And so we have 27 garden plots over there. We're got the plots tilled over the weekend, and we're ready to go. And there are 20 of the 27 plots are rented so far this season, which is good. That's more than usual.
Okay. All right. Thank
So-
you, Bert.
Sure.
So Laura's question has been answered then. We're able to get onto the budget. AdCom never had a budget. I think that's the whole thing.
Right.
This is the first time. We've been running under the Conservation Commission's budget, and it's be nice to have a budget of their own so it doesn't get so confusing. When the purchase orders come through, instead of having Agricultural Commission, it goes through Conservation. Even though Agricultural Commission does have a gift fund, they've been raising money with the garden and with the tractor rally and other events. So it just seems logical that they would have their own budget.
And two, we have several things that we want to do that I just was mentioning that are specific to farming and agriculture. That's not, even though we're kind of tied to conservation, we're really kind of a separate entity. And we have, of course, our own commission. We have 7 members on the commission. So we felt it would be efficient to have a budget.
I think that Fletcher's specific question was in regards to the request for the right to farm signs that was a line item in the budget. That was done by Marissa Cook-Oberon, and unfortunately she's not feeling well tonight, so she's not going to be here. But is that, Laura, are you able to talk now, Laura? Do you have audio?
Dennis, I have a question for you while she works on that. So you said that this money was under the budget of the Conservation Committee?
The purchase orders have been coming through under Conservation Commission, even though the gift fund is the Agricultural Commission gift fund.
So the money would have been included in the conservation budget, the $10,400 being requested for this upcoming year. That money was under conservation or was not?
That money was not under conservation. It's a separate from conservation.
So what, I guess Laura will need to answer, like, what account was that money under that it's no longer there and moved into this account?
You didn't.
Yeah, I don't think it existed anywhere before. This is in a sense new money, you might say.
Well, we've been spending money. We've been putting money into the account, taking it out of the account, but it goes to it's a little confusing because it goes to the Conservation Commission purchase order because Agricultural Commission doesn't have a budget, so we can't write it under Agricultural Commission.
So the question, last year, where was the agricultural expenses included? Was it included in conservation last year, and now this year you just want to break it out?
Some of it was, and some of it wasn't. That's why it'd be nice to have it all broken out, have the community garden, any kind of gift funds, have that in the Agricultural Commission budget, keep it separate from conservation. I mean, occasionally we'll take a vote at the Conservation Commission meeting authorizing the use of money from the conservation budget for Agricultural Commission's purposes.
Was this a self-sustaining entity? Like all the monies you came in is what you expended, and that's why you're trying to say that it wasn't under conservation last year?
Yeah, you got it. Right.
So it just flowed through conservation?
You got it. Yep, that's
All right.
right. That's correct.
So in our budget books or whatever, did you submit any kind of a request for the ag committee?
Yeah, you have to. That's
Yes,
what I'm
we-
saying. The request would go in and be listed under the Agricultural Commission, but it wasn't in our mailbox, and then it would find that it was in Conservation's mailbox because it didn't have Agricultural Commission, it had Conservation Commission on it.
Because I'm
But in
not
your-
seeing a budget request. That's what I'm wondering about.
There is a budget
Yes.
request in the packet. We added, and when we go through the tab, each of their line items is in there for us to vote on.
Can I say something about this? It's not strictly a matter of convenience that we separate AgCom from conservation. It's probably legally required, I would suspect. I think the Ag Commission was established, is that independent of the Conservation Commission, Dennis? That was a separate town meeting endeavor?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
All right, so what we're trying to do is separate the Ag Commission as we should properly, and they've submitted a proposed budget with different line items and expenses that they'd like to address as part of their first formal budget. So I think, in my opinion, it looks like they've correctly entered themselves into the budget process at this time. We've had documents from a month or two ago with their requests, and at some point, as with the rest of the budget, we'll be voting on those or approving or disapproving or whatever we decide to do on those line items. So I think they're appropriately positioned at this point. I think we just need to, at some point, address their requests as part of the budget process.
Excellent.
Sounds good.
I had one question. Should there be a revolving fund if there's revenue associated with it? Because I'm looking at the other sheet that was enclosed in the packet that has sort of the Wally Park stuff. Is there a similar reconciliation for ag or conservation?
Can I comment on that?
Please.
I think there can be a revolving account. I think that, again, is something that would have to be set up and voted on at town meeting, as all the other revolving accounts have been set up. Until there is a revolving account, they would have to operate under some other, I don't know, some other system, you know, expenditures and costs and whatever
And
another
Okay.
type of budget would operate under.
And my question is, are the expenditures of the Conservation Commission going to be reduced for the expenditures that are now considered new for the agriculture? If it flowed through conservation, their budget should be reduced by the amount of what flowed through conservation last year and being moved to agricultural. And I think that's where Linda was getting at.
Yes.
I don't think it would be reduced. No, it'd just be spent in different places. The conservation money would go towards something other than putting it towards the Agricultural Commission. But we really haven't taken much money from conservation for agriculture. Maybe some fence posts, some money to buy some stuff from IBS, but it's been, you know, just a few $100s, not more than that.
Dennis, can you give us an accounting of, at least even a ballpark accounting of what you generate out of the tractor pull, the gardens, et cetera? What do I want to say? The fundraising that you do on the Ag Committee?
I think we had about $1,200 in the account. I think we had about $1,200, and I'm not sure how much we spent from that account, but that's about what we pulled in.
Yeah. As far as the tractor rally, the only income there was from a raffle that we do, and we basically spend all that, you know, putting on the rally, you know, paying for a band, for example, some things like that. So
So it's a break even?
Yeah.
situation?
Hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the gardens, you said you charge a fee, you rent out the plot. What's the nature of the fee for the plot?
Yep. Well, it's pretty inexpensive, which is good, for the townspeople. The plots are 12 by 24 feet, and it's $20 for the season. So we have 20 of them rented right now. So actually, 2 of those are without charge to the Grange.
Okay.
We felt we shouldn't charge them, but so it'd be 18 times, so $360 so far.
Right. And Bert, you said that you provide it to the people that rent them already tilled?
Yes, right.
Over the weekend?
Yep.
Okay. And is that a volunteer that comes in and does the tilling, or do you pay that person?
It's been a few different people over the years. This year, it's a fellow named Ron Cicchini, who is a new commissioner on the AgCom.
Okay.
So he's been, Lenita Bober from Blossoming Acres has done it in the past, Kevin Solek from Solek Farms. This year it's Ron. So we always try to get volunteers, yeah.
Great. Okay. Yeah. I don't have any other questions. I appreciate the information.
While I got you on the line, for the Conservation Commission, we were just talking about revolving budgets, and we were talking about getting the one for the local filing fees. Is that still on your radar?
When you say local filing fees,
The money that's been going into the general account for the last 5 or 6 years that is actually conservation generated revenue. When we do a filing fee, we do the regular filing fee through the state, then we have local filing fees. And when the account was set up, originally we were going to have a revolving account so we could use that money for conservation. But we found out that the money is going into the general funds for quite a while now, and conservation hasn't been able to use any of it. So we wanted to get the local filing fees to be in a revolving account, and hopefully you could have the fines go into that account also. We did put in a letter, the Conservation Commission did put a letter into the select board requesting that, and I thought that was being addressed, but I just wanted to make sure.
And I was just going to say I think that's kind of out of our purview as a finance committee. To establish that's really within the select board purview. Joe,
You'd have to go to what?
Am I on point with that, Joe? Or yep. Okay. Yeah, that's really a question you need to direct.
That's going to have to go to a town meeting. I know that, but I would like to get the finance committee's blessing on it if possible.
Well, again, Dennis, that's in the select board's purview.
Okay.
If they want to bring that up to us relative to what our feeling is when we have our joint meeting, that's all.
Okay, we'll talk to Carl's office about it then. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for members of the Ag Committee? Okay.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Anytime. We have so few visitors, Bert. It's great to see some.
Have a good evening.
All right. Take care.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. We have this is probably our most unusual year, and I've been around here for 20 plus years. We've had some tight years, but to see this year with respect to the COVID virus, the shutdowns, the cancellations, it's all going to translate into revenue loss. And I know the state, or at least the rumor that I've heard, is that the state is talking about a 14% reduction to cities and towns, or up to a 14% reduction to cities and towns. So looking at this financially, there's a huge unknown here relative to our job. And I think to be able to do our job, we've really got to put a a lot of scrutiny to the budget this year relative to especially new items. If we start to see that our funds are being used up 6 months through the year, 4 or 5 months through the year, we can always have a special town meeting, and maybe adjust the budget at that time. But there's just so many unknowns with respect to the issues with COVID that we don't know how long people are going to be shut down. We don't know how long people are going to be out. And I welcome any comments from anybody with respect to that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I would concur generally with your concern. And I think the biggest word that keeps staring me in the face right now is uncertainty in terms of financial issues, whether it's a federal, state, or local level, whether or not we're talking about what's happening in the community to the people that live in the community. So as I went over the budget most recently, there's two ideas that I kind of kept in mind, and I will keep in mind, and it will drive my position on this year's, on the decision I make on the budget this year. And I frankly do not intend to support any line item that I don't consider essential, or any line item which I consider to be unfunded, as in a mandate, an unfunded mandate. And there are a few of those around, with the exception of the town clerk's request for additional support for all of the new election laws that have been bestowed upon cities and towns in the Commonwealth without funding. That's an unfunded mandate, when the Commonwealth orders you to do something and they don't give you the money to do it. Okay, in the past, the town clerk has recovered funds for unfunded directives from the state in regards to elections and new laws and procedures. And I would hope that she's pursuing that avenue. Certainly the selectmen would be, I would think, would support that idea. But again, non-essential spending, and I mean that in the strictest sense. If we can get by without it in this budget, I'm not going to vote to support it. And if something's not funded, I'm not going to support that either. And I think that as a committee, we should think about that very seriously, because of the uncertainty that's out there, that's everywhere right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Art.
I concur with Art. I am concerned about the financial aspect also. And when I was looking through everything, to me, I'm not even sure that I'm comfortable going level funded. Whether for the first time ever do we need to look at a reduction. And that reduction would have to come in the form of, like Art said, non-essentials. And I know that's not easy. And this, of course, is the very first year we didn't do a 5% reduction in our budget. We always do that. But I don't see it being prudent on our part to go above level funded, and we may need to look at going lower.
I agree with Linda, because as I look through the budget, I was looking at all these standard requests that every 5 years they're replacing this and that. And I said, is it really essential that you stick to this schedule, or can you skip it for 1 year? So I agree with you that we may have to even do like a 5% reduction in the budget.
Let me make one quick interjection, Karen. We're able to, we can ask that to be done. There are only two areas that get affected by that, and that is the schools and the library. And the schools and library are mandated by the state to have, I don't know the formula, but you have to keep increasing spending, and if you don't, you lose certain things. On the library side, you lose access to book swaps between libraries, and on the, and Sheila could probably tell me what happens on the school side. But those are areas of concern. Now, I know on the library side, because I've been through this enough, you can ask for a waiver, and I think that we would probably get a waiver in a situation like this, especially if the state does make some serious cuts to the towns and cities. And I believe there's discussions going on right now with the schools relative to adjusting their budget in view of this situation.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, they're anticipating that just schools might have a hard time getting budgets passed, and they've said that they can go by month budget type process until they get approved. That came from the state.
You mean for the school budgets?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
in regards to the library, am I remembering incorrectly or earlier or late last year when we agreed to a personnel request for the library, which was an increase in a particular position's hours? We were advised that that would accommodate the increase in the library budget that you're speaking of, the mandatory, was it 2% every year?
I don't know exactly the details. I just know the dynamic. Or
Well, I think I remember clearly we were told that that increase that we gave them last year could be applied to that requirement.
okay.
And of course, we would have to clarify that, but that's my recollection. So that may be,
Sorry, I agree with Art that they had come in asking for additional hours, and that money would go to the minimum contribution rate and would be counted in that.
Okay. And I know we did discuss that with the new librarian, and we asked her that if we gave her this change in the position, I think we were taking a part-time position to a full-time position, that there would be no other requests for additional personnel, and she agreed with that. So, but, Karen, did you finish your thought?
Oh, I was just going to say, I understood that there's special circumstances with the school and a minimum level of funding. I was looking more at, there's like a standard request for security camera type that, or the cruisers that we replace every year. Those are things that I was saying, standard requests that we're going to have to look at and even cut those out for a year.
Yep, I
Can
agree.
I ask, is there, sort of in this budget or generally in the town, are there departments or individuals or expenses that have already been deemed non-essential and so people have been furloughed?
He left. So Doug, the question's going to go to you. I don't see Joe down at the lower left there anymore. That would be
He's
a
there.
really
There's the
question.
ice cream truck. Anyway, go ahead.
All right, I was just going to ask you to maybe answer Carrie's question, because that they're the personnel board, Carrie. So anything to do with personnel other than the schools, the select board, that's their purview. So Doug would know, I think, if any personnel were furloughed already or whatever.
To my knowledge, no one's been furloughed. There have been people that have been distanced from town hall, but there's no one been furloughed yet.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
one more quick remark. What's a little different, I think, about this year's budget deliberations is the fact that we have two newer members, and I'm sure they don't have the context that some of us old timers have. We've been around here longer than dirt, and there is a lot of context to the budget items, and I can appreciate that the new members don't have that, and I would encourage them to ask questions, and I certainly value those questions, and I've already heard questions from newer members that I really appreciate, and I would encourage that. And I hope you'll step forward with any question that you have. Again, there's people on this committee have been here for a long time, and we have some understandings that we make assumptions about things that you're not aware of, and certainly feel free to ask questions when we're talking about something maybe that you don't understand.
I'm not shy, Art.
I know. I'm certain we're going to get some feedback. And I like that. I love it. Great.
Good. So follow Karen's lead, everybody. And that's one of the reasons I'm trying to give out more context than I normally would and just say, well, you know, the library's got that thing where they've got to have a minimum contribution. And I try to give a little bit more explanation. So yeah, thanks for that, Art.
And that's appreciated, Bob,
Okay.
because sometimes we don't know exactly what questions we should be asking, and that steers us in the right direction too.
Don't be afraid to hold our feet to the fire. So with that said, any other comments before we get into the meat of the budget? Okay. So the first sheet that I have on my packet are new operation requests. And I don't know where everybody else is. If you want to start with, you know, the capital, or if you want to start with new positions, or if you want to start with the general budget, you know, please feel free to, you know, make a comment and we'll start there.
I'm good with new operations if you want to start there, Bob.
Okay, Linda. Oh, and Laura, I just want to make one note. Can you hear me okay, Laura?
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, you're fine. Okay, good. Thanks a lot for highlighting in red any of the changes and made I can't remember what we did last year, but suffice it to say, it made it really easy to spot them and go through the budget, because I'm the world's greatest procrastinator and I needed that. Okay. So, let me see. Dennis, you're still here, right? Maybe not. Okay, so. I'm sorry?
He's muted. I don't know whether he's still on.
Okay, all right.
Do you want him unmuted?
Yeah, I was just going to ask him about the right to farm signs.
You're looking for Bert?
No, I think Bert's gone, but I'm not sure. I can only see the phone numbers. Anyway, the right to farm signs, I just had a question for you, Dennis, relative to the 2,500.
I just came out and I hadn't heard.
Are those mandated, or are those,
find out whether or not
I'm not familiar with the whole concept of right to farm.
Original amount of money, this is the second amount. And
The right to farm was passed in Southwick as a bylaw. It's, you know, tractors have the right of way on the roads, and people can use manure on their gardens and stuff like that. And when you move into Southwick, you have that agreement in front of you. And we just wanted to put the signs up, welcome, where the welcome to Southwick signs are, put up the right to farm bylaws there, so people were aware of it when they drive through town and they see a tractor, that they can respectfully stay behind it or give it some distance. We're having a meeting with Randy Brown tomorrow to find out, you know, what we need, what type of signs are mandated, and how much they're going to cost. So we should have more information on that by the meeting on Wednesday. We're having an Agricultural Commission meeting Wednesday night. We're going to discuss it then.
That sounds great. I appreciate the explanation, Dennis. And what I'm really trying to find out is, what you've answered is, are we under a mandate to do this?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Dennis a question?
Yes, sure.
Dennis, I don't know if you know this, but are bordering towns all right to farm as well? Because I'm kind of under the impression they all are. If that's the case, wouldn't that kind of, if there's no rule making it necessary, wouldn't that kind of make it completely unnecessary if everybody around us also is?
Well, first of all, I don't think that the other surrounding towns are necessarily right to farm or have agricultural commissions for even that matter. But we just want to inform the people that are driving into our town, whether it's from Westfield or Springfield or Chicopee or wherever, that they're coming into a right to farm community and that they should respect the rights of the farmers. You know, we've had a lot of incidences with people flying by tractors. One guy turned over his BMW by, trying to cut the tractor off. And this is a farming community, and we're proud of it. And we'd like to, have that displayed.
Oh, I agree. I thought I recall hearing that Westfield also is, and I think Granby is too. So I don't know for sure, but I'd have to look into it.
Yeah, I don't believe Westfield even has an agricultural commission, so I don't know how that would tie in with it. But like I say, even if they did, I don't see any signs up for there, and we would just like to have our community respected for being an agricultural community.
Dennis, were those the signs that we had in the room when we had the budget hearing? There were 3 signs on the wall we looked at?
Yes, Sheila, those are exactly the signs. It seemed that everybody seemed to like those, so we didn't take it any further.
Yeah, they were nice.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
with all due respect to the Ag Commission, and please note that I work in agriculture, so I'm sensitive to many of the issues that agricultural people are faced with. My position is that this is non-essential, and I would ask the Ag Commission to suck it up for a year and forgo these requests that they've made. And I say that not out of any disrespect, but again, that's a position that I'm going to take. I think if people in this community want to support agriculture, what they should do is make sure they visit the stands and buy products from our local farms. Talk to a few neighbors, encourage them to do the same thing, and it'll do a hell of a lot more for our agricultural people than these signs, although I understand their value.
Thank you, Art. We did have a suggestion from the select board, recommended us to go in front of the Community Preservation Committee and request some money come from the CPA funding. So I think we're going to discuss that Wednesday night, probably go that avenue so we have a backup.
I was just going to suggest that, Dennis, because I remember there was something with the veterans for the Purple Highway.
Yeah.
We approved signage, so that was going to be my suggestion. I'm glad you're following that route.
Thank you.
Okay. So moving right along, we have a lot to cover tonight.
Well, you'd have to ask Attorney General.
We're going to take a vote on each one of these line items here.
He doesn't want people to be held up when there's no reason for doing it. In some cases, perhaps it's too.
Somebody's got their mic on. Okay. All right. Thanks. So can I have a motion to disapprove the design and production of right to farm signs?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay. All right. Okay. Linda?
Yes.
Sheila?
Can I be clear? Yes means we don't think it should be in the budget this year?
Correct.
Then yes.
Okay. Carrie?
Just want to make sure I knew I was voting right.
Gary, you here?
You might need last name so they know who the heck
You're right. Mr. Mish. I'll do that. Mr. Mish, are you still with us, sir? Okay. Moving right along.
He's enthralled to the Nebraska game right now.
Yes, I think you're right.
Muted.
Arthur?
Please clarify me what we're voting yes and no on. How did this?
We're voting yes to remove it from the budget.
Yes.
Okay.
Art, yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
And Karen?
Yes.
All right, and I'm a yes.
Gary was muted, so I just unmuted him.
Okay, hey, Terry?
Yes.
Okay, I'll take that as a vote.
Am I coming through? That's my question.
You are now.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're all set. Okay. Consultant fees for open space. I'm guessing these came out of the, well, Dennis, if you're still here, are these consultant fees? What do they refer to?
It was 2 months ago that we had done less than 10,000 tests for the coronavirus.
Keep these eyes, because every once in a while.
Because President
Dennis, you're still there.
these incredible commercial labs brought together the
Okay.
best-known retailers in America. Now, Mr. President, we have 5.4.
Good. Thank you for muting that. Okay. Motion to, can I have a motion to approve or disapprove this line item?
Motion to disapprove.
Okay.
Second.
Second, any further discussion? Okay.
Why not do, what, can we do groups of these things?
You know, well, Terry, this is only a single page, so if we can get through this, it should move much more quickly. Because when we get to the main budget, it's like 27 pages long, but there's only items in red that we're going to be discussing. And then we'll discuss the taking out the whole 5%. Hearing no discussion. Linda, vote, a yes vote is to disapprove it.
Yes.
Sheila,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Art,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay. Office supplies and materials for 1,000.
Make a motion to disapprove.
Pardon?
Make a motion to disapprove.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, Linda,
Yes.
Sheila,
Yes.
Mr. Mish,
Yes.
Arthur,
Yes.
Gary, Carrie,
Oh, yes. Sorry.
no problem. Karen,
Yes.
okay, and I am a yes. So, I had a little. Let me see. Okay, cell phone travel expenses with a 5% increase. It was paid out of conservation wetland fields, or part of it was paid out of I can't see there's a line going through here.
He currently receives a quarterly stipend that totals, for the year, $1,330. So they're asking for a 5% increase, and it is paid out of their revolving account currently.
Okay.
And Dennis, I'm going to unmute, but you want it now in the conservation budget?
Hold on.
Like South Korea has done in 4 months, to give you that understanding.
Are you there, Dennis?
It looks like it's a $300 difference, correct?
Yeah, yes. What?
60.
Oh, is that, Laura, is that quarterly, you said?
It's
Oh, 332.
$332.50
Okay, so it's 13.
quarterly for 1,000.
Okay, I think the confusion here is it says with the 5% increase, it's 1396, but over here the amount is 1676, so it's like 300.
Let me look and see if it's typo, but it may be a calculation on their side of things.
Is that 1396 plus a 5% though?
Yeah.
No, it's 1330 plus the 5%.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but is it that plus a 5% is the 1,600. Is that what they're?
No, they requested 1,676 and called it a 5% increase. But what I was trying to show was that in fact they're only currently getting
That's
the
confirmed.
$1,330. So a 5% increase on that
It's $1,396.
is the $1,396.
Okay.
But are they asking for the entire 1,600 to come into this budget instead of that wetland fees?
They want it in their conservation budget.
With a
And
net
they want
increase
a
to this
5%
budget of
increase.
1,676?
Today, whether it be at the CDC.
That's what they requested.
That number should actually be 1,596.
Has brought us to the point where we've done 5.4.
Whoever has their TV on or radio,
And
could they
literally,
turn
we
it
just
off,
heard
please? Thank you.
Well, I don't think so. Hang on. So 1330 was the bill last year times 1.05 is 1396.50. That's a 5% increase in cell phone.
Right.
So at the very least, that would reduce the 1676 to 1396.50 if they wanted to do that, or because they're paying it out of their conservation wetland fees anyways.
No, but they're asking not to.
Yeah, they're asking for
They
the whole
want it.
1,600 to come into this budget, right?
Oh,
Yeah. They want it to come into this budget. They want it under their conservation line.
okay. I'm clear now. Can I have a motion?
Motion to leave the budget as is.
Second?
I second.
Can
Okay.
you clarify that? Do you mean motion to disapprove this request?
Yes.
Yeah, that we would level fund it
Okay.
to what it was last year and out of the wetland fees. So, any other discussion? So the motion is to keep the budget at 1330 for the year and paid out of the wetland, conservation wetland fees. Yes is to keep it the same, no is to change it. So Linda,
Say that again, the yes and the no. Yes is to keep it the same?
yeah, keep it the
Aye.
same, 1330 paid out of wetland.
Yes.
Sheila,
Yes.
Mr. Mish,
Yes.
Mr. Pennell,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
I'm a yes. So, all right, so we're gonna keep that same out of wetland. Okay. Okay, computers adding $14,000. Laura?
Yeah, that's for the managed service provider to help us with the IT needs of the town.
Okay. So that goes, is that an additional maintenance fee? Or-
We want to start to use an outside IT vendor to help us with our IT stuff. We have not
That
started
increase?
doing.
Is that an increase of 3,000?
No, we want a total of 14 added to the budget. There's currently 10,944 in the budget, so we want to increase it by the 14,000.
I think in our budget meetings, we were talking going this route because it was less expensive than hiring one person in town to handle IT. And this way, if we went with, say, a contractor, a business, we'd have access to more resources.
Right.
Is that correct, Laura?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
I have a question for Laura. Laura, is it also correct that this request is part of the IT analysis done by, was it a state consultant a year or two ago?
Yes, it's part of, it was a recommendation.
Okay, so it represents one in a number of steps to upgrade our IT systems, if you will, with the goal of overall making them obviously more efficient, more cost productive. I would ask you, as a practical matter, what would happen if we don't take this step this year? What would happen if we wait until next year? Is it going to be catastrophic? Is it going to be a substantial problem or not?
At this point, I would say we really do need to have the managed server service to help us enhance, to do things that we can't do.
So currently, how do we handle similar issues? Or we just can't handle them at
Similar
all?
issues, we would call a vendor in, but with a new server and everything, the security and whatnot, having somebody that we can contract with would enhance. It's definitely an area that we need help with.
Okay, thank you.
Is this amount an annual, like a monthly fee rolled into an annual figure? Or is this?
We would have to put things out, and we would just, this isn't the monthly fee. It would be something that would be paid monthly to the provider, when we figure out exactly what we're going to have them help us with.
Okay. So, and if we didn't do this, we would kind of pay as we go? Have to call
Kind of pay as we go. Yeah.
Well, okay. I'm not the computer guy. So,
I'll make a motion to add the $14,000 to the budget so that we can get some real good maintenance on these, on the service provider, on the computers.
I will second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, motion to approve the 14,000 made and seconded. All those in favor, Linda?
Yes.
Sheila? Did we lose Sheila?
Yeah, I think so.
No, he's done, so he's down there in the corner. I'll come back.
Oh, there she is.
We made a motion to accept, to put the 14,000, Sheila, into the budget for the software maintenance. Linda voted yes to do that. You're next.
All right, yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Mom needed some help. I got Mom home with me because of COVID, so
No, it's good. That's good.
it's good.
Mr. Mish?
Yes.
Yes. Art?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Bob? Okay. Okay, I think we can move through this because the sealer supplies is $50 uniform clothing allowance. No new money needed. They've reallocated it from the outreach program. So, can I have a motion to just approve it as a formality?
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
discussion? Okay, Linda,
Yes.
Sheila,
Yes.
Mr. Mish,
No.
Arthur,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So 6-1-0. Canal Brook, Beaver Dam, and log removal. removal of beaver dams on an emergency basis, on the lake restoration.
Dennis still there for this? Dennis?
I don't know. He's there, but he might be muted.
It's a great picture. Is he there?
I'm here.
We've lost a lot of
Dennis.
people, but
Yeah.
if you look at
Dennis, we're looking at the line item for,
projections, we're at
turn your
2.2
TV down,
million.
please.
We're probably
Hold on.
60,000, 70,000 spots. If any one person is still ready for this.
Sorry about that.
All right? We're looking at the line item for Canal Brook Beaver Dam and log removal. There have been issues around town previously about beaver dam removal. How have those been financed? Have they been paid for by the town, or is it on private property, or what's the history there? If you could.
The Lake Management Committee monitors the flow coming out of Canal Brook. And of course, the beaver dams, it's a perfect spot for them to make beaver dams. So I'm not sure where the funding has come out from before, if people have donated or if Lake Management Committee has taken the money. All I know is we do have a order of conditions that allows them to take beaver dams out of that area.
Because these rodents are protected, is that correct?
The rodents themselves aren't protected. It's the dams that are protected. You can take the beavers out anytime you like, but to take the dams out, that's habitat.
So anybody can hunt during the hunting season?
Absolutely. And even when it's not trapping season, if you go to the Board of Health, they'll most likely give you a permit.
That's interesting.
It seems like a never-ending process because beavers seem to come back to locations that encourage beaver dam building. It seems like an endless cycle to me.
Yeah, you got that right.
I don't think I want to fund this.
Make a motion, Arthur.
Make a motion to disapprove the request for $5,000.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote with Linda. A yes vote is a motion to defund this or not to approve it.
No.
Okay. Sheila?
Yes.
Mr. Mish?
Yeah.
Art?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And I am a yes to disapprove. So 6-1-0. Okay. I think a lot of this is all going to, on DPW engineering, is all going to be concerning the stormwater, the stormwater program. This is a federally mandated program. It requires outfall testing twice a year in both wet and dry conditions.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this says no new money is needed. Is that really anything for us to look at?
Hold on a second.
There's no new money. They just want to use existing money and make more, different lines.
I don't understand.
So they had, in their current budget, I think it was under, the permitting, like 72,000. And what they want to do is take that money and break it out into other lines. So the bottom line stays the same. It's just that they have, they want to add a conference and travel line, testing, a new line testing. But the dollar value in the budget isn't affected. It's a net zero.
Okay, so it's level funding.
It's level funded. It's just taking the stormwater compliance permit line and making more lines out of it.
Laura, in light of the fact that we have this COVID issue, we have this decrease in revenue and projected decrease in revenue, has anybody suggested to the DPW to perhaps go to DEP and see if we can get a stay of execution or at least a waiver for a year? Knowledge?
I do not know.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This is one of those issues that has a lot of context. And it might be worthwhile to try to explain a little bit of the history of what we're talking about here, the stormwater compliance issue.
Okay.
I take a stab at it. My accuracy is probably about 75%, but I think we can start with some federal legislation that was passed, I don't know, when George Bush was in office. And I'm not sure if it was called the Clean Waters Act. But anyway, it was administered by the Environmental Protection Agency, a federal agency. And what they decided at the time was that they needed to issue stormwater permits to regional areas. And in our case, in the case of Southwick, we're in their program because our waters drain into Long Island Sound and affect the wildlife there. So that's the long arm of the law, if you'll accept that phrase, where the EPA decided it needed to regulate activities in Southwick and other communities, not every community in Massachusetts, just the ones that have basins which drain into Long Island Sound. And they came up with a regulatory scheme, I think is a good word, to enact permits that would be issued to communities on a 5-year rotating schedule, 5-year schedule. In other words, they would issue a regulation. They would tell communities, this is what you need to do to comply with our regulation. And in approximately 5 years, we'll have an update on the regulation, and then you can comply with that. So to be fair, the intent, of course, is to clean up the waters of the whole Commonwealth in Long Island Sound and water in general, which is a good thing.
To your point, Art, that is a very noble goal. The issue with it is the mechanism that the federal and state governments have put in have no guarantee that this is going to work. Further, they've got onerous paperwork and testing that they're requiring us to do without any knowledge that it's going to work. We're supposed to, if we find a contaminant in an outfall, in a sewer drain, storm drain, we're supposed to trace it back to where it started, which is one of the things that again, onerous to try to do. If it was a guarantee that we were going to clean up Long Island Sound, yeah, it might be worth it, but there's no guarantee on that. And they have pushed it off and pushed it off. I don't know if we could make a suggestion to go back to them because of the funding right now being uncertain, that they would give us another stay of execution.
Bob, I wouldn't go that route.
Okay.
I didn't quite get to the end of my long story, but long story short is we're in the second or third phase of regulations, and as it turns out, they're very expensive and very onerous, and it's what we would call an unfunded mandate to the town. It's going to cost us, $100,000, $200,000 a year for we don't know how long, and there's no mechanism provided by the federal people or the state people to recover the cost. They did tell us that we could form a new DPW department and tax the residents an additional amount of money to pay for this. it sure sounds like an unfunded mandate, but that's another story. So my point is this, going back to my original statement at the beginning of the meeting, this is not an essential function. I think we could suspend the unfunded mandate for a year. I don't think it's going to cause any kind of serious concern in terms of water quality. The town of Southwick has been more involved in water quality than most towns in the area, largely because we have our lakes and we have our underground aquifer. Terry Mish and I, one of the old guys, originally met because we were on the Water Resources Subcommittee of the last master plan in 1997. And the Conservation Commission, to their credit, and the Department of Public Works and the lake management people and the people with the Congamon Lakes folks, the whole town has historically made a huge commitment to water quality. And if we suspended this unfunded federal, since it's now administered by the DEP in Springfield, if we suspended this for a year, in light of the uncertainty in the budget, I don't think it would cause any great harm in terms of water quality. But what it would do is allow our financing to remain flexible in light of the fact that we have no idea what's coming down the road this year. That's it.
So basically, are you suggesting that we don't even level fund it, we just cut it out completely?
Yeah, I'd like to talk with the select board about a moratorium, if you will, on spending for that particular project.
Can you make a motion to that effect?
Well, I guess I want to make a motion to consider a moratorium on spending for the stormwater MS4 permit compliance program for 1 year in conjunction with the select board.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Linda. Any
Yeah.
further discussion? Okay. So all those in favor of asking for a moratorium
You need,
on this.
don't you have the discussion?
I'm sorry.
Discussion, Mish, discussion?
Go ahead, Terry. Go right ahead.
Okay, my big concern with Xing this stuff off, I can see conference, education, travel, getting knocked down. But I'm wondering whether we should still, and again, it's a question for them, whether we still should continue to do some kind of testing and sampling. I can see, maybe keeping the consultant and legal, cutting out the public outreach. And then, but the thing is with stuff like zoos, if there's some group that, that we have to, that we've joined, we may have to kind of keep going with that. So you do need some answers on what we might be able to cut. And I would agree with that.
Right. I think we'll probably handle that in our joint meeting with the select board, because I'm not sure where they stand on this whole thing, but they may want to put the whole thing in. They may want to make some additional cuts on that, or make
Mr.
some.
Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
In reference to your question about the select board, I had a conversation with 2 of the 3 members of the select board, and they seemed supportive of this idea.
Okay.
There may be some details. I'm sure there are details that need to be talked about further, but as a preliminary matter, they seem supportive of the idea.
Okay. All right, because it is a good point for sure. Okay, so we have a motion made, seconded. Gary, any other comments?
Nope.
Everybody else? Okay.
I have a question. So are we really looking at 2 separate things here? One, like a motion to split those items, that's what they're requesting, and then one, a motion to actually bring it to the select board
Well, John, it's going to go to the select board anyway, unless for some reason they make the same motion that we've done, in which case we wouldn't revisit again. So if we said postpone the spending in total, then the select board would have to do the same thing. I'm not sure that would happen. So there would be some kind of discrepancy. So there would be some further discussion at our meeting. That's what I would anticipate, even though, to Art's point, they have some support for this message or for this.
The only reason I asked that is because it seems like it would be easier that if we did split it out into line items, it would be easier to say, well, this line item's not actually needed, but this one still is.
I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble hearing you, John.
I think I got what he said. John, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're saying is if we vote to add these new line items to come out of the stormwater compliance line item, it would be easier for us to vote line by line what we approve and what we disapprove.
I think we could wait until we have the joint meeting with the select board to do that.
Yeah, I think that seems like it makes sense. This amount only totals 53,000 and it's currently 77,200. So I'm not sure.
Some of it went to annualize their the stormwater technician and the salaries, because they hired him late. So then we had to annualize his salary to be a full year.
But I was going to ask Laura, what happens since they were going to reallocate the $77,000? What happens with that now? Does it just stay in the stormwater permit line, or do we lose it?
That would be a conversation with the select board. I don't.
It's already been carried over, right? It's already
Can I add
It wouldn't be
something?
carried, no, it wouldn't be carried over. It's an operational budget. So it's
Can
just a matter of whether you make new lines and allocate it, or you leave it in the same line and you decide you're gonna cut it, partially cut it.
Can I add something?
Go ahead.
Can Mitch add something? Okay. Again, we're just looking at this little page here. If you actually go, if people take a second and go to page 15 on the actual budget. Okay, everybody there?
Yes.
Okay, it says DPW Engineering Division Operations. There's two other additional dollar amounts on that budget itself. So there's an office supplies. I'd have no idea if that is any of that's going to the stormwater people. That's an addition of about $2,000. And then there's another $2,000 for stormwater mapping, hosting, admin trouble for 2,800. So we're not just talking about those numbers there. We're actually looking at an increase, an additional increase there that may or may not totally be for the stormwater mapping thing. So anyway, just wanted to throw those 2 cents in, give it a little more depth than what we're looking at. So yes, we need to talk with those guys. We need to find out what is the bare minimum that they have to continue doing just to stay at least, legal, and then cut everything else out. That's my thought.
I'd like to suggest or make a movement that we add the new lines to the budget from the stormwater compliance permit line, and then we can discuss the rest with the select board when we discuss the budget.
So you're saying, Sheila, we would add the new lines without approving the funds?
Yes,
Okay.
that's
Do I
my
have a
movement.
motion? Do I get a second?
Second.
Second.
So the motion is to add the the budget lines as requested, but not to fund them, in anticipation of discussion with the select board. So, Linda,
Yes.
Sheila,
Yes.
Mr. Mish,
Yes.
Arthur,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So we are going to add the line items, but not fund. Okay, so we're down to Park and Rec, because I'm guessing that's a zero there that they've requested on Council of Aging, right, Laura?
The Council on Aging, we just added it to
The computer.
the town hall
Okay,
contracts.
okay, great.
That's for that water cooler?
No, it's the copier maintenance.
So it's a maintenance contract on the copier, I believe. Okay. Wally Park Lawn Care. I'm not sure what this entails, but I would like Terry to speak to this, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, this is Mish. Okay, their budget included that 17,000 plus from a quote they got from contractor. They're looking to fund that. That is basically the fertilization program that they would be starting in July until next July. And it was 5 applications of product total. And so don't know what they've done this year. I can't get back up there again. They got it sealed off. So I can't see what was happening. But my suggestion was to cut that way back down to an amount, because we do have to maintain that. We have to keep that, the grass green there. So my suggestion was to actually come up with 2 applications, which would be about $3,500 each. And we have a total of $7,000. And those would be like end of August and then April, May for spring. And that would be my suggestion, to cut it back to 7,000. Now, looking at some of these, on those other previous pages we got, it does look like they still had money left to maybe to fund that for more fertilization for next year. But I don't think anybody's been on it this year, so I don't think there's a wear and tear. But anyway, my suggestion was to cut it down maybe to $7,000 and at least start for there.
Can I clarify, these were paid out of that other revolving fund prior to this request?
This is actually a new line item from a new supplier. But the problem is, as I asked for what the products they're actually going to be putting on the fields, never got an answer. Offered many times, so I don't even know what they're putting on the fields. Carry out.
So where did the money come from last year for lawn care and electricity?
I'm not sure.
I gotta look here quick.
Terry, while you're looking, would you give the committee a little bit about your background relative to plants, lawn care, et cetera? And
I don't really think that's needed, but suffice to say, between Art and I, we have quite a few. We have some pretty good knowledge between the two of us here.
Okay.
but I don't see that in the line operations. So I have to assume that it was coming out of their revolving fund.
With $3,500 or $35,000 available in their revolving fund, what are they building that balance for? Why wouldn't we just say have it all be paid out of the revolving?
I think that's a good idea.
Would you like to make a motion to that, Karen?
A motion to deny the $17,155 and have them paid out of the revolving? Yes,
Um,
I'll make the
Just a
motion.
point,
I'll second that.
okay.
discussion. Terry, is it Terry in?
Yeah, go ahead, Terry.
All right, just a kind of a note though, is that those revolving funds involved a lot of the rental of that property up there for ball games and parking, and of which I got a feeling, you know, we're not going to see a lot of that if for the future here, for, you know, at least this year. I'm sure we already lost revenue up there, but you know, I don't know what other things are going to be happening. So I'm not sure that that revenue is going to be there, that from the revolving fund. So there may not be any money available.
Okay, does anybody know what the expenditures, the $21,000 in expenditures were? Because even if they still had $21,000 worth of expenditures, they could still cover the majority of the $17,000, or at least cut it back to $7,000 like Terry suggested. It'd probably bring the available balance down to zero or close to it, but what are we building up the funds for?
Probably improvements. You know, if I can make a general statement, as we look at all of these budgets, and as we consider some pretty harsh cuts, keep in mind that this is a step we're taking right now. If something happens later in the year, where different departments identify that they have spending needs going forward, those can be addressed later on. What I'm trying to do personally is focus on shrinking this budget right now as much as possible. You know, respectfully and with some thought to what we're trying to do. In this instance, Wally Park, as Karen said, has the $35,000+ balance in their revolving account. It seems like common sense to me that we should ask them to spend that money first to take care of their requirements. And that would apply also to the next line item, which is the electric bill that they get, part of their electric bill. But let them pay for themselves for the time being. That's the responsible thing to do anyway. You know, that was the idea of Wally Park, that it would eventually generate enough income to run itself. This is a step in that direction. If it's too harsh, as with any decision we make, we'll have opportunities to readdress these issues again going forward. But I think the point is, at least for me, is to shrink the budget as much as possible in anticipation of the unknown.
This is Linda. To piggyback on that, if we go to page 19 where their budget is, the stuff for Wally Park totals $34,600. So they could in fact use the money in the revolving account to address each one of the Wally Park line items. And that's not affecting their income for this upcoming year, with the understanding they may not be able to have fields open.
And I also suspect some of the expenses are going to be lower this year because the park's closed.
Yes.
But you still have to
Electricity
maintain,
shouldn't be an issue.
you still have to maintain the fields. You can't just let them go, you know, wild.
Right.
Right.
And they're currently using the revolving to pay the electric and the lawn care, just to clarify.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Laura?
They're currently using their revolving account to pay for electricity and the lawn care.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
This Wally Park Electric, though, the $5,000, doesn't that have to do with the lights that were just approved? So that's not electricity.
No,
That's what I
No,
thought. too.
this is, I think this is for the lights, using the lights, the electricity part of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was not my understanding. I thought it was, we approved the lighting out of the CPC, and this was for the electric work to install the light. That's how I understood it.
that's not my understanding. My
No,
understanding
not
is,
no. I think
They-
this is actually the electricity to run the lights
right, and they have,
in operation.
they're charged as a commercial entity. They have a demand fee.
Right.
Every time they turn the lights on, it's like $1,000 or something really outrageous, regardless of what they actually use.
Right.
But the point remains, looks like something that could be handled by the revolving account, and probably should be, in my opinion.
And are they even going to be playing baseball this year? Are they going to be playing soccer to turn the lights on at night anyway?
they do have some contracts, I believe, but you're right. If we're still with the social distancing, you know, we're not going to be using the park at all. Nice.
Does anyone know if they've reached out to the electric supplier on getting a discount or a donation for it being a park?
Yep.
I know Dyke down
Like this. Hey, like this. Eversource says no.
No.
Really, because the Dyke in Westfield gets it for nothing because they get it donated from the town or from the electric company, but that's also WG.
It's their G&E.
Right.
Yeah, they're buddies. No, we don't get a discount. They've looked up that tree. They barked up that tree.
So do I have a motion to, from what I'm hearing is to not approve either the lawn care or the electric?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Okay. so
I'll
have a
second. I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Okay, any further discussion? All right, let's take a vote. Linda, a yes vote is to disapprove
Yes,
expenditure.
yes.
Okay, Sheila?
Yes.
Mr. Mish?
No.
Okay, Mr. Pennell?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
All right, and I vote yes to disapprove. Remote meeting participation activities on Channel 15. Laura, can you shed any light on that?
That was, Carl wanted that added into the budget for some of the Zoom type stuff, the wireless for our meetings. But the specific details, I'd have to exactly ask Carl.
Okay. Do you have, and I don't know if you have this really handy, do you have a balance on the cable account right now? Do you know what the balance on the cable account is? No. Well, I was looking that up.
Yeah.
The town, through the benevolence of Comcast, is allowed to charge any of you who have cable TV a fee. And that fee goes to the town. And the town can charge anywhere from 0 to, I think, 3%. I don't know what it is now. I think it's up to 1.5%, but I'm not sure. So there's some room to maneuver there. So my suggestion, if it's allowed, would be to take these activities and take it out of that cable account. And the only reason I know that is because I was on the cable committee. And I think everybody should be on that cable committee once at least in their life.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Is it true that if we approve this, we'll be able to watch the select board live at their meetings?
I don't know, you have to ask Mr. Mogul.
Is that true, Mr. Mo?
It's in the general plan, yes. They're doing some installation actually this past week for some of the wireless infrastructure that was budgeted last year as part of the IT project. And actually under this, Mr. Clark has it set up that he can actually beam any meeting that we have right now using the Zoom function direct to channel 15.
That's correct.
So you may very well be TV stars right this very moment.
Great, that's good. It's a new era.
Are you ready for your close-up?
So if that's the case, then what do we need the additional 15 for? That
I
sounds
think
like
that's
that's
to
already what
finish
it's
that project. It finishes that project, and then it's the acquisition of the equipment to actually give us the capability to have the cameras and stuff in the various meeting conference rooms to be able to do this work. And that this is funded from the Channel 15 money.
Oh, so it's money, it's already available.
Yeah, I mean, and it's probably not my place to chime in, but I was working on something else. But a lot of times when with any of these accounts, and the budgets are the budgets, and the source of the revenues isn't always clear on all of these things. So even on, looking at some of the other accounts that may have budget items, but also have revolving, they don't show what's coming out of the revolving to pay for a certain thing or this, that, and the other. You're looking at the expenditure side of the budget. The income side of the budget isn't really shown in the data that you have or that we have, generally speaking. That's really presented at the, it's a balanced budget when you're done. So you basically do the expense side of the budget here, and then you raise and appropriate to get to it.
And with Channel 15, that money comes from the revolving account, and we appropriate it out of the revolving account into the general fund to cover any of the expenditures.
So this 15,000 is planning on coming out of that cable account already, Laura?
Yeah,
Okay.
it gets moved out, appropriated and moved into the general fund.
Okay, awesome. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I jumped the gun. Go ahead and then discussion.
Yeah, no, we'll do discussion. So do I have a second?
Actually, can I just ask one question?
Sure.
Did you say move to discussion?
We're gonna go, no, I need a motion, a second, and then we go to discussion.
I'll second it.
Okay, thanks. Okay, any discussion?
I have a question. So can you just clarify what these expenses are? I heard that it was Zoom, and then I heard it was equipment for
It was
installing cameras,
equipment,
and then I heard it
yeah.
was to finish the project that's already at hand. Can I just have, I just don't understand what the actual expenses relate to.
Okay, we're participating, and you probably know this already because I know you've used Zoom before, Carrie. We participate, I know I'm participating on Zoom, but the town has to pay for it because they're having bigger meetings. Am I correct with that, Laura?
Yes, and that may fall under our operations, but let me clear, I know we've been trying to, get cameras and set up in the conference room so we can do video. And, we started some of this stuff, so this is trying to finish up, but I can get clarification.
I would appreciate that.
Okay.
Now, if it doesn't get used for this, doesn't that free up the funds to go elsewhere, or is it just going to stay with cable?
It's cable. There's some latitude, John, to kind of move that money around a little bit.
I mean, it just doesn't sound like something that's completely necessary for this year, being that we're unsure of things. 15 grand to go to a meeting.
One second. Laura, did you happen to find what was in the cable account?
Yeah, there is, sorry. you know, just over $100,000 in that cable account.
And to my recollection from being on the committee, John, that's kind of like the normal thing. There's like 80, 90 grand sitting in there all the time. So there aren't a lot of expenses that go against that. This is an unusual thing where we're trying to get into, you know, Zoom and any of the hardware software that needs to be developed on that. We have to replace some computers to get on it. I think there's money in the account. I appreciate your concern, but I think as long as it's coming out of that account, not out of the general fund, I think we're good, because we are limited with the cable monies. I mean, like, we can't go buy a new fire truck with that, or a new police cruiser with that cable money.
Okay.
Let's do that.
This is Linda. I mean, to add on to that, on page 20, there's an additional $25,000 being requested for the broadcast infrastructure for town hall. So does that need to be done in conjunction with the remote meetings? Can that 40,000, those are both new line items, can that 40,000 come out of the revenue account?
Oh, out of the cable account?
Yeah, yes.
And what was that other?
There's 25,000 for broadcast infrastructure for all of town hall.
Yeah, I believe it can.
Okay.
All of it.
Laura?
I believe all of the Channel 15 budget comes out of that
Revolving account.
cable, the revolving account.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what
Or the money gets transferred out of there to cover these expenses.
Got it.
And again, I think we actually have the ability to move that percentage to actually increase the revenue if we really got low in that account.
Okay. I'm comfortable with it if it comes out of the current revenue, and so there's no money coming out of the budget, so to speak.
Okay, is that a motion, Linda?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thanks, Sheila. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, voice vote. Linda?
Yes.
Sheila?
Yes.
Mr. Mish?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Gary?
No.
Karen?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So 610. Motion is approved. Okay, Arthur, is it me or is it the way we have to do the voice votes that is slowing this down to a crawl?
No, you got to do the voice vote, but no, we're just doing a lot of discussion. That's all, in my opinion. That's fine. It takes a while, but that's what it is.
Bob, I don't think this is ever a short meeting.
No, it isn't, but I think this is, I'm looking at this stack of paper, Sheila, and I'm going, oh my God.
Can I ask a procedural question? Do we go line by line, or is it only the red ones that we are going to go through in the next batch?
Well, there's two other kind of
We
tough
still
things.
have the,
One is the new capital request, which new capital request, there's 2 pages of that. And then there's the additional salaries and positions. Those, I think, are probably going to be almost as arduous as that first page. And then the balance of the budget is, yeah, we're not doing anything, Carrie, unless it's in red.
Really?
I wonder if we should just go through the new capital and the positions tonight and schedule another meeting to go through the rest of it.
I agree with Sheila.
I agree too. This is Terry. And the other thing too is that there is a lot of items in those in there's, the main body of those budgets, like I pointed out with the DPW, that there's an increase, there's zero for, last year's numbers, and then there's $2,800 that actually increased. So there's a lot of meat in those other budget numbers. So I think we should all take a look at that again closer once we get through this tonight.
And there might be some things that are not in red, but that we don't think are essential.
I agree.
I agree.
Yep.
That's fine. I'm always trying to expedite. What can I say? You want to do the new positions and let's see where we are after we do that before we get into capital. And because I'd probably like to close this down no later than 8. Is that or before?
That sounds lovely.
I know I'm going to need a cocktail. So, all right. Agricultural. Is everybody okay with that? I mean, all right, good. All right. Agricultural, a new secretary. Any feelings? Anybody has comments on that?
No. I think that's one of those items they should carry themselves for this year. They can, boards and committees in the old days used to take their own minutes and notes and produce minutes themselves. I know it's archaic at this point, but again, this is unusual circumstances.
Just a comment on that, Art. The other aspect is all the meetings have to be taped. So the tapes can be put on. So while we don't have, we maybe have to get somebody to transcribe them. Maybe we can get a computer program to transcribe them. They can take shortened minutes, but we're taping the meeting. So you want to make a motion on that? Or
I motion that we disapprove the $900 amount.
I'll second that.
okay. Any discussion? Okay. Voice vote. Linda?
Yes.
Yes to disapprove.
Yes to disapprove.
Sheila?
Yes.
Mr. Mish?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay, so. Well, okay. They have an increase in hours, reserve training hours, community policing, corporal position, and full-time communication center supervisor.
Bob, I think you skipped the conservation line.
Oh, God, thank you. You're right. Coordinator increased hours from 24 to 29. I don't really see the need there.
Yeah, I'm going to make a move to say no to that one.
Okay. Is that a motion, Sheila?
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have any discussion?
I think the need might be there, but I think we need to suck it up for this year.
I agree.
Okay. So, okay. Voice vote, Linda?
Yes to disapprove.
Okay. Sheila?
Yes.
Mr. Mish?
Yeah.
Art?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
I'm voting yes to disapprove. So that takes care of that. I looked through this and met with the chief and lieutenant. While there is a need for a communication center supervisor and also a corporal because there's some chain of command issues at the police department. You know, community policing. And I'm not sure they're absolutely necessary. We're existing without them presently. So if it wasn't for this, I'd probably be supportive of them, but that's an expansion, and I don't think at this time it's the right time to do it. I'm not sure about the records clerk. And I know that they have training hours. There's been new requirements for reserve officers, and it's a way to supplement their force. So I look at this, and personally, I'd probably support the records clerk and the reserve training hours.
I would add on there that I think the community policing is important also. So I would support the first 3 line items and not the corporal position.
Oh, okay. We're not going to talk about dispatch yet. That's fine.
All right, hang on a minute.
Okay.
I have a thought. All right, the total's somewhere around 47,000. Could we just put in a number and let the and these are all increases? Maybe they go from, instead of 18 to 28, maybe they go 18 to 21, increase in the reserve training hours from whatever. Give them a number, the chief a number, and then let him decide what he needs to spend it.
I like that idea. I think these are all important considerations for the police department, and I think it would be appropriate to do something like Terry's saying, say cut the total number in half and then let the chief decide where he wants to focus that money. And then again, these requests can be revisited later in the year from time to time if they decide that additional monies are needed for different parts of this request.
So Mr. Mish, do you have a dollar amount in mind?
I don't have a calculator in front of me, but it's roughly like 47,000 is what the request is. So
yes.
Solomon can say 43.5 or say 45,000, or no, I'm sorry, 2350, say 25,000 total, or.
What about just approve the reserve training hours, but let them do what they want with it?
We're not approving the line item, we're approving the amount.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. That amount, the line item amount.
So you want the full amount for reserves?
I'm saying if you give them the whole 27.5, but let them do what they want with it.
Between the 4 line items.
Right.
I think we're kind of saying the same thing. We're just giving them amount.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I came up with 48,000. I'm just going to cut it in half to 24. But whatever. Somebody want to make a motion? Pick a number.
Make a
I'd say
24.
What was the amount? I'm sorry.
Terry?
24,000. I'll make a motion to increase the funding to 24,000 total.
Second.
Okay. We have motion made and seconded. Do we have any further discussion? All right, voice vote. Linda?
Yes.
To reduce the request to 24,000 and have the chief spend it where he feels most appropriate.
Yes.
Sheila?
Yes.
Mr. Mish?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
I'm voting yes. Okay. Full-time communication. Okay, so the full-time supervisor is 56,000. They're adding some dispatch overtime and some EMS overtime. So the actual increase would be 36,000 for a full-time communication supervisor. What's your pleasure, ladies and gentlemen?
This has been in the pipeline for a number of years, this request for this position. And I believe there were attempts to not actually fulfill it, but to sort of accommodate it in different ways. And I think, isn't that what some of the description below the line item is indicating? I don't recall specifically whether certain people were assigned to actually have a supervisory position, or I don't know what they worked out over there, but we haven't decided to fully fund that position. And the fire and the police department got creative in terms of addressing that situation. And I think they may have to, my opinion is they should address it for one more year.
Are you making a motion to disapprove?
Yes, I can do that. Make a motion to disapprove that request.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Linda. Okay. Any further discussion?
Can I just ask, does it create a safety issue if this position isn't filled appropriately?
Well, I think it's, I don't know, Carrie, but I'm not sure if, we don't have this position presently.
Is it just piecemealed together?
No, Bob, if this position was, I think it was suggested as part of one or more studies in the past of the fire department structure, the structure of the fire department. And the town has addressed many of the changes that were suggested. It's like the IT study. There are fire department studies as well, done by outside consultants, how to improve the efficiency, safety, performance, every aspect of your operation. This is an issue that was identified in at least one of those studies, as I recall. And again, it just hasn't been a priority. It's not that it's not important. It's not that it's something that everybody wants to do. It's just the way it's been prioritized. And, you know, giving credit to our fire and police chiefs, they've continued to do the job they need to do without this position. Is it a safety issue? I mean, that's kind of a, I guess, a hypothetical question. If it's something that's theoretically supposed to improve the efficiency of the operation, I guess you could.
I've got a question about how it sounds like they incur overtime throughout the year. So if they create this position, would they avoid paying the overtime?
I believe so. And because in one of the other issues is that there isn't, I shouldn't say there's no chain of command, but if you're both working the desk and you're both equal in pay grade and stripes or whatever, then who's the boss?
Yeah, that's how they explained it at the budget meeting.
And that's really, I think, the biggest problem or situation that this addresses.
Okay.
What I'd like to do.
So if
Chairman?
we approve the $56,000 or the $36,000, we're stuck having to pay that. But if we leave it as is, we might incur less overtime or more overtime. It's not a fixed number to us.
Right, it's a variable.
So it's which way do we want to go this year and revisit it next year?
Can I pipe in?
Yep.
Terry, Mish, piping in. This is one I'd like to actually hold off until we have the joint meeting with the selectmen, who are the select people, who are the, the authority on personnel. So if it's absolutely, needed, or whether it's something we could push off a year. I don't want to make that decision for them.
It was in our budget book. There was a lengthy write-up on it, and everything that everyone said is accurate. There was a 16-hour study done that made this suggestion for this position. It technically is a new position, but it would also improve communication and also have a better chain of command within the departments.
And I have in my notes on that page that he's begging for this position. It's the only place I wrote that in the whole book.
Yeah, I'm for it, but I'm for the position, but I don't know whether we need to fund it this year or whether we can get away for one more year. That's, I guess, what my question for the selectmen would be.
I like Terry's idea.
I
Kick
do
it to the selectmen.
So,
Doug's smiling. He likes that. Yep. All right.
So should we,
So we're going to table it.
okay. Motion to table, Linda?
Yes, sir.
Second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, voice vote. Linda?
Yes.
Sheila?
Yes.
Mr. Mish?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And I'm going yes to table this for our joint meeting. Okay. So there's two issues here, or is it just, Laura, this is an increase in
They want,
hourly rate. Is this also an increase in the number of weeks?
a number of weeks and the number of hours. They currently, in their budget have, $3,600 that they use for part-time clerical help.
Mhm.
And off the top of my head, I don't remember. I don't think there's a set, number of hours. I'd have to look it up. But they're looking to increase the hours and then the rate. They kind of gave a range of the rate.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to use the proven Terry Mish method of tabling this discussion until we talk to the selectmen. They are the personnel board. There's some different aspects to this request. A couple of years ago, I recall we were told that the clerical position was eliminated and that they thought that some of the EMTs or firefighters would be able to help with clerical information. There's also a reduction in paperwork because everything is entered nowadays remotely, like from the ambulance. They enter data on the spot, on the site, as they're on the way to the hospital or sitting waiting for the next call or whatever. So there's a little more to understand about why they're kind of bringing this position back into service that I don't understand exactly why, because I thought we were headed towards eliminating it, or at least distributing it among the paid people at the firehouse. that may have changed. I mean, it might be something, a very good reason why they can't do that.
Are you making a motion to table, Art?
Yeah.
Can Terry needs to pipe in here. Can Terry pipe in?
Well, Art, did you make a motion or no?
No, that wasn't a motion.
Okay, all right. So go ahead, Terry.
All right. Originally, that position, the clerical, was totally removed, and what was put in its place was that the chief thought that he and the assistant chief could carry that, those do the reports or whatever they got to do. And so that position was totally taken out basically, except for this, a little part-time. And that has not worked out the way they thought, or they didn't put enough time in, or enough part-time in to get what they needed done. So I do know that they're doing too much, less supervision and more clerical, which they basically brought on themselves. But as previously, my suggestion was to not totally get rid of that position, but to cut down the hours. So my thought would be, again, that's the other Terry way of doing things, was to actually they're looking for $10,000 more, maybe give them some, so there are some additional part-time hours, but not the total 10. So maybe give them 4,000 or 5,000 instead of the total 10. And I'm sure Linda's got something to say.
Boy, how did you know?
Because I know you.
When this topic came up about eliminating the position, I remember saying, be careful what you wish for. And when you get it, don't come back asking for that again. And now 2 years later, they're back asking for it. I'm not in favor of it. They need, the chief will need to figure out whether there's more time that he needs to put in or whatever, unless they have a really good reason for this. My answer is no. This was thoroughly covered before that position was eliminated, and we were guaranteed they would not be back asking for this.
It sounds like would like a motion to table this to discuss with the select board. Again, to Art's point about them being the personnel board, maybe even perhaps have the Chief Anderson come in to that meeting.
So moved.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Make sure the chief has a fire suit on when he comes in.
I think we may need them. Okay, Linda, the vote to table.
Yes.
Sheila?
Yes.
Mr. Mish?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And I'm voting to table. Okay. EMS overtime reflects state medical control requirements dispatch training, $550. It looks like it's state mandated.
But why is it overtime?
Well, I don't know. Terry, did you discuss this at all, or?
I don't recall.
Because they have to have the coverage, I think.
Right.
And
Oh, wait a minute, Terry. Wasn't this because they had trouble keeping EMTs? And because of that, the existing EMTs they were paying overtime. And then it had something to do with, they had to be properly trained and have so many hours before they could be left on their own. I think I remember. I think that's what I remember the chief saying.
Double medics, yes.
I'm glad I brought Karen along, but I can't remember myself. But we're going to talk to them about the fire and those extra hours. You know, there's no harm in asking what this is about either. Also, so we can ask the chief that time, the selectmen.
Yeah, I would
table it.
motion to table.
Second.
Okay.
Both items or just the one?
Any other? We're gonna table both items because they're actually in conjunction with one another. So, any further discussion? Okay, Linda, motion to table?
Yes.
No? Yes. Okay. Sheila?
Yes.
Mr. Mish?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And I vote yes. For table. 7-0. Okay, so the cemetery archive project request is through the CPC from what I'm reading here. So why wouldn't we ask the CPC for this?
Yeah, at the budget meeting, I suggested that they ask the CPC, so I don't know if they actually did put in that request.
Okay. So, I don't know, my feeling is we would make a motion that we would ask them to put that in, or ask them what the result of CPC presentation was on it. Because we've already set the precedent with our archiving the town's records, and CPC is funding that. So this would fall in my opinion, to the same thing.
And with that, we can add the payroll to that also, right? Wouldn't CPC cover the cost of the individual doing that?
Yeah.
as well?
Oh, yeah. That would all be part of the project.
Okay.
Can I ask, is this
Are you
an
talking-
essential, I mean, I sort of go back to what Art had said at the beginning, is this an essential position that needs to happen right now too? No matter whose money it is.
I will say from a personal note, I would say yes. There, and it's strictly personal, but I know a few people who are now residents of the cemetery, and there was some difficulty in locating the plot that was purchased by those individuals, as well as just some of the records where if you went to visit, everything is in a book, and the books are really old, and it's tough if you go there. You may not be able to find out where somebody is buried, and I don't mean that as an attack on them. It's just that they've been working with what they've had to work with, and it's inundated now. And I think to keep any future problems coming up with not being able to locate a plot of land, or if it was paid or whatever, I don't know all the details, but I think for everyone, it's a good place to put the money.
Do you mean given the fact that there might be, I hate to be morbid, but additional individuals that need to find out where their plot is?
Yes.
Okay.
This is, just so you know, Carrie, this is a project that is 20 years, 18 years overdue. And my wife was the chairman of that committee for a while. When she got on the committee, and the two people that were on the committee prior to her got off. She got all the records into trash bags, or not trash bags, but like paper bags. So and we had had a computer program in that department, and it's not been accomplished. So somebody needs to be dedicated to this and clean this mess up. It really, is it essential? Could we skate another year? Probably, but it is woefully overdue.
So this would come out of CPC, money that's already appropriated, not going to affect the tax rate.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
No, I don't think, yeah. They're going to look, but I don't know whether they're able to get that.
Pardon me?
And this would come out of CPC historical funds, I would say, and there's plenty of historical funds. They look for projects to spend the money on for historical.
That's true. They of all the funds in CPC, that's the one that
I want to,
hardly ever gets a request.
if I remember, they're probably a couple $100,000 in historical to try to spend. So this is exactly what they're looking for.
Right.
Just as some context, hasn't there been a tremendous amount of volunteer work on this project already? Gene Thoreau and others?
On the
cemetery archives.
Archiving of the records, not archiving the records. With Gene's
Oh, he's into the restoration of the stones?
yeah,
Correct.
He's
Yeah.
spearheading that project to restore all the stones.
Okay.
And that money did come out of CPC. And the fence, the new fence that we replaced around the old cemetery came out of CPC. So CPC and historical has been very supportive of the cemetery, the old cemetery.
So can I move that
Right.
we turn down, decline those two costs and recommend that they apply to CPC?
Absolutely.
All right, hang on.
The
Yeah.
pay increase is not related to the archiving project.
Right.
The
Hang on.
$15 pay increase is for the people who mow the lawns, maintenance.
So that wouldn't be
Yeah.
covered by CPC, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Then can I just take the first one, the 2,500, and recommend that we decline that and recommend CPC?
And I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Well, yes, I think Terry, I think we've already asked for that, for them to do that. Now, I don't know whether they pay for a person to actually sit down in front of the computer and type and transpose those paper records into computer records. That's what the project is there, from what I remember.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the CPC pays for people or they pay for like stuff.
They pay
So,
for the project.
The project.
They pay for the
Right.
project and whatever the
Project.
details. So if there's
Okay, and that's fine. I would hope that the CPC would be able to fund that, but so I don't know about tabling it or anything else. I would say we put it in, and then because it has to get done. It's too long of a time. So it's time sensitive. We've got to get this done, especially when they're trying to expand that because they're running out of room. And
Right.
as somebody said too about these increased pay rates, I guess I was muted before when I tried to say that previously, in the very beginning. Actually, that's one of the things that we're going to have to continue on, that increased pay rate, because those numbers for lifeguards and everything else are going up, and just because of the state's mandating, increases in pay. So we can't really say no to that unless you want to just get rid of people. That's my thought.
You're saying we need to do that to be competitive?
Well, isn't that the minimum wage?
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
$12.75.
Okay. And Laura, let's take care of the first item, please, so we can move down to that. You made a motion, Sheila, to vote no on the 2,500 and refer it to CPC, did you not? Yeah, okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay. Voice vote. All those in favor of disapproving and referring it to CPC? Linda?
Yes.
Sheila? Sheila?
Oh, come back. Maybe she had to go see.
Am I on? Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I said yes when I was muted, I guess.
Okay. Mr. Mish?
No.
Okay. Art?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And I'm voting yes. So 610 to disapprove that and move it to CPC, or ask CPC to cover that. So increase the pay rate to $15. Do you know what the pay rate is? You know what? Honestly, I'd like to table this and talk to the select board on it with all the rest of the stuff we're going to talk to them about. Anybody else want to talk?
I agree with you. Don't we usually not have much of a voice in pay rates? Isn't that negotiated separately?
Yeah, I mean, it's like to your point and Art's point, the personnel board is the select board, and whatever they want to do is going to be what it is. I mean, they're going to look for some input from us, but.
So let's table the final 3 lines and have it for discussion items when we meet with the select board.
Do we hear a second?
I second that.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah. So you're talking about which line item is the park and rec one too? Are you including that as well?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. The thought occurred to me in terms of that line item for the park and rec coordinator pay increase. The finance committee has been asking for an operations manual for ever from park and rec, and we have yet to receive one. The thought occurred to me that maybe it would be appropriate to offer a stipend, which would be a one-time payment, to the secretary or the coordinator to develop that operations manual. Just an idea of possibly a way to get something done that doesn't address a pay increase. It doesn't address a increase in hours, except for a one-time agreement. Again, that's something the select board would have to deal with. It's a personnel issue. I don't know whether it's possible or not. But it may be a way to accomplish something we've been looking for. Then again, it might be unrealistic in terms of thinking that that person could actually accomplish what we're looking for. Just an idea.
That particular individual isn't going to be working more hours. They just want more pay for what they currently do. So the stipend maybe for the manual, they already said that they had one. They got a manual from, I believe, Westfield. But I don't know if they've done anything with it. But if the foundation is already set and it just has to be personalized to us, that hopefully they could do that as a committee even.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that either.
I think that's a great discussion to have with the select board. Stick to the topic here. However, and thank you for bringing that up, Arthur. The last 3 items, we have a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on the last 3 items? Hearing none, I'll do a voice vote. So motion to table the last 3 items on this page, personnel page, to discuss with the select board. Linda?
Yes.
Sheila?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 7-0. We did it with 4 minutes to spare. Okay, so our capital requests and the rest of the budget. What's everybody's feeling relative to when would you like to tackle the rest of it?
Do we have a date yet to meet with the select board?
The select board will be meeting on this Wednesday, I believe. And they'll be going through the budget as we are. I'm guessing they probably were hoping that we would have our end done so everything would go over to Laura, and Laura and Mel could chop it up to find out where any disagreements or discrepancies were. So I'm not sure. It really depends on them and how we finish it.
What if we met again next Monday on May 4th to go through the remainder?
I'm here all the time.
I'm fine with that.
Sounds good to me.
Good to me.
All right,
I'm
so
good.
4th at 5:30 again?
Okay, does 5:30 work for everybody?
Yep.
Yes.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
How about if we, all right, we're going at 5:30, that's fine. We're gonna have to go through those capital requests, which frankly, I don't think are gonna, take much time. Should we set a time limit to like 8 o'clock again, like we just did, on this? And hope that we get it done, all done, and you can make that decision. I mean,
I think we should plan on getting it done. D-O-N-E, done. No matter how long it takes.
Yeah, we're gonna need to get it off the desk.
I agree.
Sure.
when's the actual town meeting now?
The 16th. Our town elections are the 9th, June 9th, and the town meeting is June 19th.
Correct. So we have
16, yeah.
we actually have another month to, like the month of May, to kind of finish between the selectmen and us. So if we get hung
Usually
up on something,
Sorry, go ahead, Terry.
I was going to say, I mean, if we get hung up on something next Monday and we are only halfway through it or a quarter way through it or whatever the heck we are, I say we did just like we did today. We ended at 8 and then pick it back up on another day. 'Cause,
With that said, should we just have a backup meeting after the 4th? Like even, another day next week, just in case? Because
think that's a good
Robin
idea.
has to post,
I think that's a good idea, Linda.
okay. Does anybody have a preference? Do they want Tuesday off for a mental health day and reprocessing? Do you want to go with Wednesday or Thursday?
Wednesday or Thursday's fine.
How is Wednesday?
I'm
Fine.
here all the time.
Fine.
Okay,
actually,
let's go with Wednesday then, as a backup if
Okay.
needed.
all right, sounds good.
Okay,
Okay, yep. Well,
Yeah, Tuesday,
Robin needs 2 days, 48 hours to post it, so she can post it for the 29th, and if we finish on the 27th, we can just cancel the 29th. Oh, I'm sorry.
It'd be the 4th and 6th.
Looking at the, you can post it for the 6th, and if we finish on the 4th, we just cancel the 6th. But she'll
Okay.
post it on Monday.
because Tuesday is Cinco de Mayo, and that's also the curse of Oak Island, which I have to watch as a conclusion.
Terry, that's why we love you.
Okay.
All right, Kim.
So
Make a motion
dates are
to adjourn.
May 4th, May 6th at 5:30 on both days. And can we have a motion to adjourn?
I made the motion, but you couldn't hear me.
Oh, I'm sorry. You have a second?
All set.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, wait a minute. I got to do a voice
The
vote.
vote.
I'm sorry. I'm just used to that. Okay, Linda,
Yes.
Sheila,
Yes.
Mr. Mish,
Yes.
Art.
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
I vote yes. Thank you for your time tonight, ladies and